Hi, I'm Dr. Mary Balliett, and I've had over 30 years in clinical practice, both seeing patients and teaching future healthcare providers. Over 2 years ago, I realized that there was something really missing in the marketplace that met everyone's metabolic needs, their complete metabolic needs for both macro and micronutrients. And so, me and a group of really dedicated idealists formed a company where we created Potential Power Nutrition and their breakfast blend. This really amazing combination of macro and micronutrients to meet all of the basic metabolic needs that everyone has. We just really wanted to make sure that we made a product that was as good for the environment as it is for patients and for everyone, really. And so today, I want to talk about Potential Power Nutrition's breakfast blend and its impact on children. And so for my guest today, I have Dr. Erica Callahan. And Dr. Erica Callahan is Associate Professor of Biochemistry and Nutrition at Campbellsville University, which has a chiropractic program. And she is a leading expert in mother and child nutrition. So welcome, Dr. Callahan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I have to say, I think what started this whole journey was years ago, I wanted to be a pediatrician. And the more I got closer to that goal as being a pediatrician in the medical field, I realized that I wanted more to give to the future kids in my practice than just medicine and general recommendations. So the more I learned and the more I've progressed through practice and now teaching, the more I am thrilled to see that there is a product out there that really gives kind of a one and done recommendation for pretty much any child that I can think of that comes through my office. So I'm super excited to talk with you today, Mary.
Thanks, Erica. So I think let's talk about this whole idea of complete metabolic support. So when we say complete metabolic support, we're talking about macronutrients, where there are the carbohydrates and the fats and the protein, and then micronutrients, which are the vitamins and minerals. So let's talk about those macronutrients. Why are carbohydrates, which kids love, and protein and fats important?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. They absolutely love their carbohydrates and they love the things that are sweet for their carbohydrates as well. Which, on a side note, if you've ever tried Potential Power Nutrition shakes, they are delicious. They are chocolatey and smooth, and my girls love to eat them. So it's a win-win. But the carbohydrate to fiber ratio there is perfectly balanced. It's less than 10, meaning that it's not going to spike your insulin response as much as having something either refined or sugary would, which is the snack that most kids will reach for. So the fiber intake is really going to slow down that insulin response, but there's still a little bit of carbs and a little bit of sugar in there. And you need that insulin response to get the amino acids and all the other nutrients that you need to be absorbed through the GI tract as well. What I really like is the sugar. The sugar is only 9 grams. If you look at things that kids grab, like Nutri-Grain bars, or they'll grab like a Chobani yogurt or something like that, those small little cups of yogurt are sometimes 24, 25, 26 grams of sugar. That's more than an adult woman should have in the day for an added sugar intake. And that's just one snack or one part of a meal. So this is substantially less than most snacks and still tastes delicious. And the fiber in and of itself is going to help support the GI tract. It's hard to get fiber in little ones. Sometimes they don't want to eat celery and carrots and things like that, and things that are very fibrous. So having that just mixed into the shake is going to feed their gut bacteria, and they're going to be able to make all those short chain fatty acids, vitamin K, biotin, all the other things that their body just, the microbiome just feeds off of. So I'm really excited about the carb intake in this one.
That's great. I actually want to share the screen for a second so that we can really talk about reading a label and how important that is about reading a label for moms and dads when they're talking with their kids. So let's take a look at this. What Dr. Callahan is saying really well is when we look here at the carbohydrates, we see 15 and we see the fiber 4. what you want to do is you always want to divide carbohydrates by fiber. If it's less than 10, which is way less than 10, you could have 40 grams of carbs before this would be a problem, then that's a good carbohydrate. And anything less than 10 on the sugars is also great. And absolutely, that microbiome, that is really important. Yeah. And so I think we'll go right in while we have the label in front of us. Let's talk about how much protein do the kids need?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot. I mean, we think that sometimes when we make meals, these kids need these big meals just like the adults do. But if you have a school age child, up to about, middle school, adolescence age, they might need only about 19 or 20 grams a day. So if you take a look at that protein, the packet in and of itself, one packet is 24 grams. That's what a little one needs entirety of the day. And it's a good absorbable non-allergenic pea protein that it dissolves very nicely. So it's not that gritty kind of texture that sometimes kids have sensitivity to different types of tastes and senses in their mouth. I haven't found a kid that's had a problem so far with the taste and textures of this. And it's adequate protein for little ones. And then say you have an adolescent, someone who's a teenager and is eating the household, this could be a really good large snack for them. They might need 50 grams. So this is half of what they would need in a day, if not more. And that protein, I know that Dr. Mary and I have kind of geeked out on the amino acid content, and the amino acids are awesome. Yes, as she's scrolling down, what you see, there's a lot of the branched chain amino acids, which are going to help support musculoskeletal system, the muscular growth in a child. Things like glycine is in your collagen formation, again, important for a growing child. Tyrosine is important for your thyroid. Your thyroid is ramped up and just moving as a child is growing, as anyone's growing, really. Arginine for nitric oxide production and good vascularization. Just so many good things. So many good specific well-placed amino acids. Oh, I'm looking at methionine, methionine for methylation support, and a sulfur-containing amino acid. Oh, we could totally geek out and go on and on it. So
I know, it's so cool, right? Yeah, so exactly. When we think about branched chain amino acids, which are the #1 producer of muscle tissue, and kids are growing their bones, their muscles, the branched chains, which are here highlighted, so important for them. And then, you don't need these other things that people are saying, oh, you need branched chain amino acids. This is in there as well. And then I love that you bring up about collagen peptides, right? Because everybody's like, oh, collagen. But what what Eric and I both know is that glycine, every third amino acid in collagen is a glycine. So as long as you have that glycine, unless you have a genetic defect where you cannot make collagen, you don't really need collagen peptides. This is going to provide those for you so that you get all that great connective tissue. And I love that you brought up about the sulfur-containing amino acids,
yes.
right? So here's the cysteine that's in things like cruciferous vegetables, where maybe they don't want to eat their broccoli or the cauliflower, and it's in onions and asparagus, but it's in here, right? And like you said, the methionine, so important for methylation. And maybe you've heard of methylation and how important it is for a gene turning on and turning off. You want to talk a little bit more about that whole gene turning on and turning off things with the methionine?
Yeah, absolutely. Another word about our favorite glycine. Glycine is very calming. I actually really like to use it in kids to kind of calm them down at night and to help sleep, as opposed to using something like a melatonin that you don't want to use long term with kids, with anyone really. But between magnesium and glycine, a very good calming kind of therapy for kids, especially at night. Growth is good, and growth only happens if we sleep. So good stuff.
Yes, right. So great, right? And so let's talk for a moment, going back up here on the last macronutrient, then that is fat. And so we see that we do have some good fats in here. And I think the main fat that we want to focus on, that we also use, that we have a little bit down here, we'll come back to the vitamins in a minute, is I'm going to have Dr. Callahan talk a little bit about the choline and the importance of lecithin, which is phosphatidylcholine that we put in there. Why do the kids need choline? Why do we all need choline?
We all need it, yes. If you remember back to biochemistry, you remember the bilipid phospholayer, and the number one phospholipid is choline, is lecithin. So every cell in your body has so much choline in it. And the fluidity and your body's cells' ability to be able to respond to cell signals and environmental stimuli and everything depends on the fluidity of that membrane. And choline is a part of that structure that does that creates that fluidity and that good cell signaling and just function. You need it for cell signal support, you need it for mood support, you need it for nervous system support, you need it for memory, muscle control. It's been linked to like things like executive functioning in kids, which is our ability to be able to kind of regulate that, like, oh, I'm angry or tired and I need to respond, but I'm going to respond in an appropriate manner. That's executive functioning, right? The front of our brain takes over the back behind brain, that kind of reptilian brain. And choline supports all of that. Just super important. And we can go on and on about choline as well too, but the majority of your cells, including your nervous system, is made of choline. So without healthy choline levels, you don't have healthy nervous system at the very bottom line.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important to talk about the choline for that reason. And just all the neurotransmitters, like you were saying, not only are they in the membrane, but now we're going to make neurotransmitters. So from one nerve to talk to the next needs acetylcholine, which is in your brain, in your parasympathetic to help you rest and digest, and your sympathetic to fight or flight so you can get up off the couch, but also at the neuromuscular junction. So when we want to learn all those motor skills that kids are really dealing with, and learning more motor skills, also choline. An interesting thing that I know you and I have talked about the choline, and one of the reasons I put it in there is also this folic acid. So what's interesting about folic acid is about 40% of us have this gene defect called MTHFR, where we don't methylate folic acid the way that the 60% who don't have MTHFR do. But Marie Cadella Cornell showed that folic acid is methylated with the choline. So it has that great nerve function, but also has this great folic acid function where now I get methylfolate. So we didn't have to put methylfolate in the product. And that was really important to me because in the methylation cycle, I want to put a methyl from the choline to the folate to the B12 and back and forth, because it's like a ball that you're throwing those methyl groups. And so you can see what I did do is methylate the B12. So really, because so many vitamins out there, number one, have way more than 100% of the B12. And now it's not methylcobalamin, it's cyanocobalamin, which is a cyanide group. And unfortunately, then your liver has to take that cyanide group off. It can be very toxic to the liver, can mitigate the positive impact of the B12, because your body will put methyl B12 in the blood. So it looks good in the blood, but what did the body have to do to get it good in the blood? It may have had to take the cyanide group off. And so I think, just like you're saying, all this methylation and the importance of turning on good genes and turning off problematic genes, that's a real methylation issue that we are going to see with methionine, with the B12, with the folic acid, all working together in that methylation cycle.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about these other vitamins that the kids need? What do you want to say about those on the micronutrients?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have to jump to vitamin D right away. And the reason why I am is since we had chatted last time about just all the ingredients, I actually just read a study about vitamin D sufficiency or deficiency in moms and in kids, but it was directly related to moms specifically. And they found that not having adequate vitamin D levels actually led to a decrease in dopamine receptors in the brain. So
Really?
having adequate dopamine was sufficient to help the dopamine receptors, both, it seemed like both number and efficiency of how it worked. So super, super interesting for those that are looking to have kids to be adequate in vitamin D, definitely while you're pregnant as a mom and a future mom, and then definitely for the kids to just help upregulate those dopamine receptors in the central nervous system. Because we all know, we think of dopamine as being that like reward center, and it certainly is, but it gives us our drive, and it gives us our, we want to get up and move, and we want to do things, and we want change, and we want differences and artistic ability, all of these things and growth and development have to do with dopamine. So super important, vitamin D, and just overall good for, we classically think of it as for bone health along with vitamin K and calcium, all very important for our growing babies, right? As they're laying down bone and growing growth plates and getting taller and things like that. But vitamin D as a prohormone does so much more. There's so many things known and unknown about vitamin D and metabolic pathways that it regulates. I think it's super important that we have, I mean, it's sufficient levels in there and it's not crazy high levels. Very safe for small children and all the way up to adults as well, the dosage that Dr. Mary has put in here.
Thanks. Yeah, no, that's great. I did not know about that study about the dopamine receptors. And we think
Cool.
about kids when they want to elevate that dopamine, they may want sugar, 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 which is going to elevate the dopamine. So this is going to help them not have that sugar high, sugar crash. Because if the vitamin D is in there, which is really great. I mean, go out and play in the sun too, of course, now that it's beautiful weather. But yeah, so we don't want to have it too much. What we could talk about here too, when we're looking at this vitamin list, when you're a little kid, and I know you did this with your girls, you
Mhm.
can make one shake and 16 ounces and then 2 8-ounce glasses of chocolate milk, really, right? And
Yep.
so we want to talk about that dosage, that why a half a packet per kid may really meet the RDA for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So my girls are 13 and just 10. So they're a little older, but for the protein and the fiber content, it was perfect for me to split it in half. They're not huge like breakfast eaters, but they love this breakfast in the morning. So we just do like half a cup, maybe 3/4 of a cup of frozen berries. We put it unsweetened, like a nut milk in it just to make it a little creamier. The packet, and then they end up both having a little, cup each. And I mentioned in conversation to Dr. Mary earlier that I noticed too, we homeschool. And I've noticed that when the girls have this in the morning, they do much better. They're able to kind of sit. We do kind of like segmented things at a time, math and science, and they're able to sit a lot longer before they're like, I need a snack. I need to pee. I need to get up. I want a break, and their hangry level is so much, they're more focused and they're so much better at kind of just accomplishing the task that they need when they have this in the morning. And it's fantastic that really it makes kind of a box go longer for our family that we can split it between the two of them. And then I have one per day, but still, yeah, it's great for little kids. Even if you have kids younger than 10 or so, you can do maybe like a third of a packet or a quarter of a packet. Anything would be really appropriate. For little ones, you can even just mix it into maybe some oatmeal that they're having or something like that to try to just get those nutrients in.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, because I did just like when you and I worked on this, we were that really in that 4 to 12 age range, unless you're a big person at 12 or you're actually adult size, then you can have the whole packet. But for an average littler kid, about half a packet is the RDA for them. So that's
Yep.
really great. Yeah, no, that's so great. And then again, like you said, what if they're a picky eater and they're not getting enough protein? Now you can just figure that out because you said 19, 20 something grams would do it for the whole day. So again, you could make it and split it and they could have that. So that's really great to get that in. And then our mnemonic for energy for these kids so that they
Yep.
can learn for their mitochondria in their brain, which has so many, is this B1, B2, B3, pantothenic acid. That group right there is the thing making energy for you. And intriguingly, since you and I talked just last week when we were prepping out to what we were going to talk about today, a study just came out in the New York Times talking about they did do 22,000 adults and showed that their memory was better if they had a multi B vitamin. And so, you and I know that because the mitochondria, so many mitochondria in the brain. But now when we're trying to get kids to learn what you're seeing in your homeschooling, really making a difference when we give them that nutrition that they need so they can focus, they can stay there longer. And I noticed that even for myself when I'm teaching, if I have this in the morning and then teach, and I'm just so much more focused and able to get that day done. So again, for all of us, but for kids, so important for learning. And then when we look at these, the other things as well, on the pyridoxine and B6, all so much metabolism with
So
B6
much.
and part of
Yes.
that methylation cycle as well. So yeah, no, I think really happy with this. One thing I'll point out is that on the vitamin A, notice it's not at 100% and everybody else is close to 100%. And that's because the literature about high dose vitamin A is not good, because it can predispose, if you are already at risk, 2 times the RDA can be a little problem for adults who could get osteopenia. But what's interesting is night vision and really having good mucous membrane health really does need vitamin A. So just having carrots, for some people, not enough, because they're not good converters to vitamin A palmitate. So it's why I put that in there. For that, there's a small group with a genetic defect where they don't actually make vitamin A palmitate very well from the beta carotene. So I wanted to throw a little in there, just like they knew about the night blindness. So now the kids are going to see better. Everyone's going to see a little bit better. Yeah. And so then I love that you talked also about the minerals. And so just to reiterate what Erica said about the calcium for your bone, right here, we see that. And then the magnesium for better sleep, and without sleep, no growth hormone. So I want you to just talk about the importance of sleep hygiene. It's not really in the shape, but for kids,
Oh,
how
absolutely.
important is sleep hygiene?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the magnesium is fantastic and going to help. Just commenting a little bit on the form. If you go and just kind of pick up any type of nutrient just off the shelf anywhere, most of the time you're going to see magnesium oxide. And it's not absorbable. You're not really using it for anything, but very thoughtfully, Dr. Mary has put citrate in there, which is going to help with bowels, glycinate, which is very calming, malate, which is very good for energy production. So it's going to get a nice balance of supporting their metabolic activity for energy, but then also calming them down with that magnesium glycinate and the glycine in there. So if you have them eat this during the day, that's going to give them the kind of setup along with the B6. You're having the amino acids, your B6, your magnesium. So you're prepping the body to make serotonin and melatonin towards the evening. But then doing kind of just, natural things that you've probably done as a mom, as a parent, as a guardian, is just getting them into a routine at night, maybe giving them a little additional magnesium right before bed if they need it, or rubbing magnesium lotion on them. Reading them books before bed, lights off and phones down, tablets down, at least an hour or two before bed, things like that. And those things will be tremendously helpful for getting that little one to fall asleep and to sleep regularly. I think the last time I read, and I'm probably going to botch the hours by a little bit, but I think an adolescent, school-aged adolescent, needs at least 10 to like 13 hours of sleep a night. That's a lot. So that means that they really should be going to bed and getting good consistency sleep, and then waking up feeling refreshed. And if you're hitting all of those things, then you know that their hormones are working as well as they should, and that they're able to grow as well as they should. And like we mentioned before, most importantly, if they're sleeping, then that means they're making growth hormone. And you can't make growth hormone without rest. And if they're not resting, they're not growing as well as they should. So the magnesium, I really enjoy that as well too. Plus, it's just a really good way. We've talked about this before too, to help kind of control that sweets. So if your kid really likes chocolate, like my girl does, my older one, 13-year-old, will say to me, "Oh, I am craving chocolate, Mom. I must need magnesium." So I'm like,
Wow,
"Hey, girl."
very good.
Yes, if your kid is craving chocolate, make sure they have magnesium. That's probably because good dark chocolate is a very high content of magnesium. So our body naturally kind of wants that. And that's why we crave those types of food when we need the nutrient, the phytonutrient that's in it. So chocolate, magnesium, they go together.
That's so great. Yeah. And then, yeah, the cocoa is organic cocoa in this, and we added some magnesium also. So there is some additional magnesium, but the chocolate itself provided a lot of magnesium. So that is really cool. And I wanted to point out something that I read only recently, and that's about the sodium potassium ratio. So you can look at the naturally occurring potassium in here and the naturally occurring sodium, because sodium comes naturally in food, as does potassium. And the new study is saying that you really want a little bit more potassium than sodium when you're eating. And that helps your water balance. Potassium is in the cell, so it helps the cell plump up like a grape, and sodium pulls the water out. So when you have way too much sodium and the water is out, the only place out is actually in your blood. And so for adults, that can lead to hypertension. But for kids, what we want is then that nice, healthy, grape-like cell that's able then to do all of its metabolic functions. So really interesting to take a look, just like you were saying, when you're looking at labels and being better at reading a label. So there are other supplements out there that maybe they say they're good, but you look at that potassium, sodium, and potassium's not higher than sodium, or 1 to 1, or a little higher than, you would really like sodium to be less than potassium. That's the number one take-home message. Equal to or less than the potassium, and then that's a great supplement for cellular water balance. So now we have the water in and the water out. And I think that, you already talked about the tyrosine and thyroid hormone, and here's the iodine. So tyrosine and iodine making thyroid hormone can't grow without your thyroid. So kids super dependent on adequate thyroid. And then it has some really nice herbs in there, like cinnamon for blood sugar handling. And so there's the chromium also for blood sugar handling. And then I'll let you just say one thing about zinc, since it's,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. So the zinc, I really like the dosage because sometimes it's hard to get kids to get zinc in. I mean, zinc is found in like oysters, it's kind of hard, but also some nuts and things like that. But zinc is super important for the immune system, as we kind of classically have been taught, but it's also important for our growth, for our collagen production. It's also important for our sex hormones, for all these little kids that are going into puberty. I don't know if you remember way back to cell biology and biochem, the zinc finger motif, which is the genetic expression of our sex hormones. That's how we kind of fold and hold on to our sex hormone genes till we're ready to express them, is by zinc, which is why zinc is so important for us to have in abundance, so we have good expression of those genes. So if we want good estrogen, good testosterone, good progesterone in our little ones, then zinc is a super, super important nutrient to make sure that they get. And it's not easily gotten through diet. So I like that it's naturally occurring in what's found in it, but then she also added a really nice, good absorbable form of the zinc gluconate. So, and at 6 milligrams, it doesn't bother anybody's tummy. I know sometimes when I take zinc at a higher level on an empty stomach, I kind of feel a little yucky because it increases hydrochloric acid production, but this is yet to bother anybody that I know of, and it's a nice, great absorbable form.
That's great, actually, to bring that up, right? And
Yeah.
especially, because we think about wound healing, we think about the immune system. But again, when we're talking about genetic expression and how important that is when you're growing, and when we're talking about hormonal development in children now, so much in the news, we would like everyone to experience it in the most positive way they can. And I think then we can support that and have them have a good experience as they grow in through adolescence, which can be a difficult time for all of us, right?
I was gonna say it's hard enough. We don't need it to make any harder for the little ones. So
Right, exactly. That sounds really great. And I think to wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to highlight on the vitamin list?
yeah, no, not on the vitamin list. I think just really kind of last minute thoughts for me is that I've really noticed a difference in my family and in my kids and in myself. So I'm not only excited for the patients that I'll have that will be able to take this and benefit from it, but just for us. I mean, I kind of have a picky eater, and my one little one, it's kind of a struggle to get her to eat, even though she knows, who her mom is. Her mom's always telling her things. But this is without a doubt, every time I ask her, do you want a shake? She's like, yep, I want a shake. So she will always have a shake. And I'm always happy to give her one of these shakes. And it's just, it's been very awesome for our family. And I just want to thank Dr. Mary for it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I know myself and you were both so busy. We're doing so many things. And so the convenience of it, to
Yes.
just, and especially because it mixes with any fluid you want. Like I sometimes put in coffee, have coffee,
Yep.
have water, or almond milk, or oat milk, or even if you drink cow's milk, it goes in everything and
Mhm.
it'll blend up. And so it's really so easy to use in that way for the kids. I think it's just really helped our moms out there, and especially getting everybody ready in the morning when you're like, oh, we got to get ready for school and we have to get ready for our day and we got to go to work. It's really been so important. And I'm so grateful that I can reach out to you and get all that information about moms and babies, and totally safe for nursing mothers, pregnant women,
Yep.
when you're on your way to having that baby and your
Yep.
baby is little. So going through the mom, because whatever the mom has, those nutrients go into the milk.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it was very, I mean, we keep bringing up the kids and the RDA, but it was very purposely designed to be safe for pregnancy as well too. So even the vitamin A levels and everything. Number one food that I would add to pregnant moms as well too, because again, we're busy, they might be nauseous, any and all of the reasons why we don't take care of ourselves when we're pregnant. This shouldn't be one of them. We should be able to very easily throw it in some iced coffee, decaf coffee, and drink it up, that kind of thing. Yep.
Perfect. Yeah. Water, milk, anything.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. And thank you, Dr. Callahan. And to everyone watching, we really appreciate you learning about the importance of good nutrition for children.